Day 21 started by tearing down a belt in order to replace the dirty bandages with clean one. Then it was time to leave my base and move toward the truck I left yesterday. Past the crossroad near the light pole, I found my first victim for the day. While along the street between the buildings, I noticed the second. I forced him to climb over the fence so I could finish him easy before stealing his belt. A little bit further, I noticed the third. Killing this one was easy, and it revealed the fourth that was hiding behind the tree line. But he wasn't alone, and getting closer resulted in forcing his friend to chase me. He had a hand fork stuck in his back that I collected after dealing with him. Finally, I went for the passive one behind the trees, and he even had a watch to give me for the trouble. The fight caught the attention of a new Zed that I disposed of promptly. Later, looking around, seems to be somewhat clear beside one zombie I saw on the other side of the road. Killing this one made his other two friends joining the fight, but they failed to avenge their friend. Seconds after a group of 5 emerged from the trees in front of me, I killed the central one that was the fastest to reach me. Then I triggered the chase animation on the second in order to separate him from the rest of the group, and after a short retreat I killed him as well. Time to loot a kitchen knife, and I had to address the next two. One of them was fast, and after triggering his chase animation, I was able to deal with him easily before focusing on the slow one. At this point, I wanted to check the house where I passed the first night in, but noticed a larger group in front of it. Carefully approaching them, I had a reaction of too fast one. Strafing backwards, I tried to push them to the ground, but they were stubborn. After crossing the road, finally I was able to drop them both, and after some struggle they were dead. Later I was able to pull 3 more. They were walking at the same speed, making it hard to split them. Once I retreated all the way till the burned house I went through in order to force them to climb through the burned walls. My plan worked perfectly, and one by one all 3 was soon dead. After collecting a watch, I went back for another round, but was intercepted by a Zed halfway there. Once defeated, I moved closer to the house and had to kill another on my way there. At this point I became impatient and started shouting to make them come to me. Seconds after, 2 climbed through the window, and I was able to kill one in time, before the second was able to get back on his feet. After dealing with him, I noticed one incoming from the east tree line, one from the north that just climbed through the window, and another one from the west that did the same. I reacted in time to kill the last one while he was on the ground. Then, after failing to push down the second, I went outside to avoid being surrounded. Wise decision, considering there was an incoming horde on the left side of the building. While retreating, I tried to push down the fast one, but he refused to do so. Once inside the house, I was able to kill the first 2 that climbed through, but had to retreat because the rest of the horde started to pour in. After climbing through a burned wall, I turned around and dealt with 3 that followed me. While waiting for more, one tried to outflank me, but I was able to drop him easily before collecting the steak knife that was sticking from his back. Because I didn't hear any more zombie noises, I started to loot the corpses. One of them had a big hiking backpack that, compared to mine, offers 2 extra capacity and 5 extra encumbrance reduction. After moving my loot inside it, I equipped my new backpack and collected my old one to be used later for storage. Plus, from the same corpse, I also obtained a sleeping bag in perfect condition. Time I was done looting, a new Zed joined the graveyard. While after turning the building corner, another one started chasing me, and a second climbed through the building window. I was able to push down the first in time before bonking the second, and prevent him from getting back on his feet. Alternating weapon swings, I was able to kill the first and hit a few times the second before I had to push down the third that just joined the fight. This gave me the time to finish the one laying under my feet. Seconds after, a new one joined the fight by climbing through the window, and in the process was able to push me away. While regaining balance, both were able to get on their feet. They still fall back down from the first push, and I was able to finish one of them before the second was able to stand back up again. But it was not such a big deal, and seconds after he was dead anyway. At this point, I looked around only to find 3 more that was slowly approaching. One by one, I was able to deal with them without any issue. Finally, I had some time to rest and loot the new corpses. When I was almost done, a bonus zombie was slowly approaching, but I had no time to lose, so I went for a kill without waiting for him. Finally, I was able to reach again the house I wanted to double check and had to kill an enemy standing in my way. Once inside, from the living room, I picked up the television and a CD from the drawer underneath. Hearing some enemies outside, I went to deal with all 3 of them. I also took the opportunity to check the shed, and from its floor I collected some pliers I can use for crafting. While going back, I noticed 2 Zeds incoming from the northeast. Time to deal with those that 2 extra came from the northwest. Looting those 4 allowed me to find a watch and a good piece of literature. Time to take it that I found myself surrounded again. After killing the first one and pushing away the second, I had to retreat inside the house. To save some energy and funnel my enemies, I waited for them behind the living room window. Despite some had time to stand up, this didn't stop me from dealing with all 8. The couch prevented them from pushing me away after climbing through. This ensured the success of my endeavor. After looting the new corpses, I went upstairs and decided for the first time in my playthrough to wash myself and some of my clothes until I finished all of the water in the bath. For the same reason, I used all of the sink and toilet water. It wasn't enough, so I went downstairs and kept washing my clothes at the kitchen sink. Once I was done, 2 new visitors decided to reach my house and fight me, only to find their brains smashed to pieces. Later, it was time to move to the next building to the west. Before I could get inside, I had to deal with a Zed that came from the forest. Seconds after, I was able to obtain a muffin tray from the kitchen cupboard so I could cook some muffins in the future. While from the other shelf I got a medium handle I could use to craft or repair tools, followed by some literature from the crate near the bed. This time I decided to leave that crate there and continued moving to the west. Once close to the next building, I had to fight off 4 zombies nearby. Despite a little bit of struggle, I managed to deal with all of them without issues. But in the process, my lead pipe broke. For this reason, I equipped on my back the axe I got with me as a spare weapon. Seconds after, I found the first victim I could try this weapon on. He even had a crash helmet in perfect conditions for me to loot. Finally, it was time to check the closest building. The first thing I did once there was to reach the bath and finish cleaning my clothing. Once done, I took a magazine from the bookshelf, picked up the television in the room corner, and the handheld game console from the ground. To finish looting this building, I went in the kids' room and took another magazine from the drawer. At this point, I was over-encumbered, so I had to walk back to my car and deposited all of the new loot inside its trunk. Finally, after 3 weeks, I was back to where everything began, to the starting house on fire. In the garage, I noticed the remains of some crates. Seconds after, 2 Zeds climbed through the burned-down walls, only to be sliced in half by my axe. Later, I started to move inside the house, but had to turn around and deal with the 3rd enemy that got inside my garage. At least he was able to pay for my time with a watch. After that, I finally was able to check what was left inside the house. To my surprise, the television in the corner was intact, and I proceeded to pick it up. After moving it in my backpack to lose the encumbrance moodle, I also obtained a VHS from the bookshelf. This is the only loot that was left in this building, but before moving out, I had to deal with a new enemy that just broke in. Going outside allowed me to spot a new Zed, and going back inside helped me to deal with him easily because he climbed through the burned wall. I heard more to the west. For this reason, I stayed in the building while moving inside the old bathroom. Seconds after, a zombie climbed through the window only to die by my hands. Despite it was getting late, I still wanted to push further. For this reason, I moved more to the west toward the neighbor house. Halfway there, I had to deal with a sleeping Zed. This action attracted more from the north. I killed the first that just climbed the fence, and considering that I had an enemy behind me, I went to the other side. One by one in quick succession, I dealt with 6 of them before I had to climb back out to avoid a larger group to ambush me. I was tired and probably almost out of breath, so it was time to fall back. Initially I went around the starting house, but it was too dark to fight them inside a burned building. For this reason I changed plan and moved to my car instead. Driving backwards, I reached the blue van and took a moment in order to obtain its radio, considering I need new batteries for my flashlight. Then finally I drove all the way to my base and started unloading my new loot. While trying to get down in my basement, I heard someone to the north from my house. For this reason, using my flashlight, I found the intruder and dealt with him. After that, finally I was able to deposit my new loot in their respective storage units. I also moved all my electronics from the small backpacks down in the basement, inside one of the crates I placed down here yesterday. While leaving the basement, I was ambushed by another zombie that went through the window on the other side of the room. Killing him in front of the ambulance made me extremely tired and out of breath. This situation made me nervous, and I think that in the next days I have to find a new, more secure base to settle in. Considering that previously I broke my axe, I got another one, plus a rolling pin from my tools crate to be used as weapons for tomorrow. Later I placed down my old hiking backpack on the table in the clothing room, plus I moved the empty gas can and the rubber hose inside my car trunk. After depositing the remaining loot around midnight, I went to bed.